They laughed at me in that courtroom. Not a nervous laugh, not an awkward one. A confident laugh like the ending was already written and I just didn't know it yet. My ex-husband leaned back in his chair, glanced at his attorney, then looked straight at me and said loud enough for everyone to hear. She couldn't even afford a real lawyer, and yeah. For half a second, standing there with a thin folder and a cheap pen, I felt that old familiar sting, the one that whispers, maybe they're right. But here's the thing about moments like that. Sometimes they're not the end of the story. Sometimes they're the exact second everything flips. Let me tell you how it really went down. The courthouse was one of those old buildings that smells like dust and furniture polish, like a place where time slows down, whether you want it to or not. Sunlight came in through tall windows, hitting the wooden benches at an angle that made everything feel exposed. I sat alone at my table, back, straight hands folded, pretending my heart wasn't trying to beat its way out of my chest. My blazer was a few years old. My shoes were scuffed if you looked close enough, and everything I owned for this fight fit inside one folder. Across the aisle was my ex, Daniel Cross. Perfect hair, expensive suit, the kind of calm that only comes from believing the system was built for you. Next to him sat his lawyer, a senior partner from a downtown firm, flipping through color-coded documents like this was just another Tuesday. Daniel didn't even look nervous. He looked bored. When the judge walked in, everyone stood. She was sharp, composed, the kind of woman who didn't need to raise her voice to control a room. She scanned the case, confirmed names, then looked up and asked Mr. Cross, "You're represented by counsel." And Ms. Carter, "Are you representing yourself today?" "Yes, Your Honor," I said. My voice didn't shake. That alone felt like a small win. Daniel leaned over to his lawyer, whispered something, then smirked. "This should be quick," he muttered. I heard it. So did the judge. The proceedings started the way you'd expect. His lawyer painted a clean picture. Daniel was the provider. Daniel was stable. Daniel had always carried the financial load. I was framed as the irresponsible one, the woman who walked away, who couldn't handle the lifestyle, who now wanted a piece of something she didn't earn. When it was my turn to speak, I told the truth. I talked about the years I supported him while he built his career, about putting my own plans on hold, about raising our kids, managing the home, making sure his life ran smoothly so he could focus on success. That's when Daniel laughed. Not a big laugh, just a short, sharp one. Enough to cut. "Come on," he said, half standing. "She's acting like a victim. She doesn't even have a lawyer. She wants half of what I built. How's she going to support our kids when she can't even support herself?" The room went quiet. That heavy kind of silence where everyone's waiting to see what happens next. The judge looked at him and said, "Sit down." Her tone was calm but cold. He hesitated, then did, still smiling. She turned to me. "Ms. Carter, do you have any documentation to support your claims?" I stood, walked forward, and handed over my papers. That was the moment his confidence started to crack. Just a little. The judge flipped through the documents slowly. Tax records, employment verification, certifications. She paused, adjusted her glasses, and looked up. "These records indicate you've had a steady income for the past 2 years," she said. "Can you explain?" "Yes, Your Honor," I replied. After the separation, I went back to school. I completed my degree online, passed my licensing exams, and accepted a position at a mid-sized firm specializing in family law. Daniel sat up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "That's not possible," he blurted out. "She never told me any of that." The judge didn't even look at him. "You will remain silent," she said, then turned back to me. "Do you have the proof of your licensure and employment?" I handed over more documents. That's when everything changed. The judge read, and read, and read some more. Daniel's lawyer stopped flipping pages. His face went pale. Daniel's smirk vanished completely. The judge looked up and said, "It appears, Mr. Cross, that your understanding of your ex-wife's situation is inaccurate." He stammered, "I didn't know." "That much is clear," she replied. The hearing ended with orders for full financial disclosures from both sides. Everything. No delays, no excuses. Daniel walked out looking rattled. I walked out breathing for the first time in months. Over the next week, the truth started coming out. My legal team, yeah, I had one now, brought in a forensic accountant. They followed the numbers, and the numbers told a story Daniel never planned on telling. Offshore accounts, hidden transfers, money parked in places he thought no one would look, nearly $500,000 tucked away while he stood in court claiming I had nothing. When his lawyer filed an amended disclosure calling it an oversight, I almost laughed. Almost. Then it got worse. More accounts surfaced. Shell companies. Transactions traced back to Daniel's office computer. And then the final blow. Irregular billing practices at his firm. Inflated hours. Questionable charges. The kind of thing that doesn't just hurt a divorce case. The kind of thing that ends careers. I won't pretend that was easy to process. This was the man I once trusted. The father of my kids. I didn't want revenge. I wanted fairness. But at some point, fairness and truth become the same thing. The emergency hearing was scheduled for a Saturday. Reporters outside. Tension thick enough to taste. Daniel looked different this time. Smaller. Tired. The judge didn't waste time. She laid out the evidence piece by piece, froze his accounts, ordered sanctions, referred the billing issues to the state board. Then she looked him dead in the eye and said, "You believed your wife had no power. You were wrong." 4 words. That was all it took. The final ruling came days later. Joint legal custody. Primary physical custody with me. A majority share of the marital assets awarded to me due to his misconduct. Support payments. Full assumption of marital debt by him. The judge didn't sound angry. She sounded disappointed. Like she'd seen this story too many times before. Daniel didn't look at me when it ended. He just walked out. I cried afterward. Not because I felt victorious, but because I felt free. Free from the narrative that said I was nothing without him. Free from the fear that maybe he was right. Later that night, my daughter texted me and said she was glad she'd be with me more, that she missed me. That message meant more than any ruling ever could. So yeah, that's my story. A woman underestimated. A man who thought confidence was the same thing as control. And a truth that came out anyway. Now, here's where I want to hear from you. Do you think the system works when someone finally pushes back? Or do people like Daniel get away with too much for too long? Have you ever watched someone be dismissed, written off, or laughed at, only to prove everyone wrong later? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Argue, agree, disagree, tell your own story. Because conversations like this matter, and sometimes hearing one story is all it takes for someone else to stand up and say, "Yeah, that happened to me too."